Hello and welcome to this video, which is going to be a solo how to play of Welcome to New Las Vegas. Now, I'm going to assume that you already know how to play the game, multiplayer version of the game, the standard version. This is purely how to use the solo mode that comes bundled with the game and against your virtual Acme opponent. So it's just about the solo mode because it can be a little bit overwhelming at first, but actually once you get into it, it is quite simple. So the first thing you need to do is choose your opponent. Now, they've all got a level, so level 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a level 4 opponent that I've chosen today. And you'll see they've got a variety of things on their card. This is going to tell us when they validate projects and build hotels. Again, we'll come to that in detail when we get to that stage. This is going to tell us whether Acme wants to borrow from the bank or whether they want a strict bank. Basically, the way that works is we'll choose a card at random, which could be any number from 1 to 15, tuck it under the card, and then at the end of the game, we'll check. If the number is equal or higher than this, then Acme does want to borrow from the bank. So if it's an 8 all the way up to 15, Acme wants to borrow from the bank. If it's a 7 or below, they want a strict bank. That will then work the same way it would for a multiplayer game, in that if both of us want to borrow, I get 4 bundles. If only one of us want to borrow, I get 2 bundles. And if neither of us want to borrow, I get no bundles. But I might end up with this 20-point penalty. But the important thing to know is, if both of us choose a strict bank, not to borrow, so Acme would get a card lower than 8, and I would have chosen this, then Acme will suffer a penalty of points equal to the value of the card. So if a number 6 was randomly chosen at the start of the game for Acme, and I chose a strict bank, Acme would get -6 points. But on the flip side, I wouldn't get any extra bundles of bills, so I could be liable for this 20-point penalty. So that's worth paying attention to, really, depending on how much debt you're planning to incur. Okay, so to set up the game, first thing you need to do is do your score sheet, and we need to divide everything in half so that we can write the AI score on the bottom half of each box and our score on the top. The next thing we need to do is move these out of the way for a minute, is shuffle the deck. Now, I've already shuffled it before, so I don't need to give it a very good shuffle, just a bit of a shuffle. And we're going to take the top card, keep it face down and tuck it under here. And again, the number is going to decide at the end of the game whether Acme wants to borrow from the bank or not. We've already chosen one of each project card type by random, as you would in a normal game. Okay, so now we've got our 80 card deck, which I'm just giving another shuffle to. We can divide it into 2 halves. So we can either do it by eyeballing it or by dealing it into 2 piles. So just for the benefit of increased shuffling as well, I am going to deal it into 2 piles. So now we've got our 2 halves of our deck. So this can be the top half, doesn't matter which way around, and this is going to be the bottom half. And in the bottom half, we're going to shuffle in Acme's 3 project approval cards. And I'll go over these in detail later. So I'm going to give this a good shuffle so that they're nicely randomised. That's the bottom half of the deck. And then give this another quick shuffle. This will be the top half of the deck. So now we've got our deck, bring our thing back. First thing we need to do before we start is choose which type of bank we want. And as I say, we're definitely going to choose to borrow from the bank. So we're all set up to go. All we need to do now is to start the game, we draw 3 cards. And this is the standard turn structure until we get to the latest parts of the game when we get into the projects. So draw 3 cards, and we're going to keep 1 for its number, 1 for its effect, and the other one we're going to give to Acme. So just as an example, I might take, I probably want the crane because I want to start building to get this objective. I would perhaps take the 8, so take that one for its number, and I give this card to Acme. and that goes in Acme's pile. And you can look through this pile at any time, but you must keep it in the same order that it is. You can't mess with the order, and you'll see why at the end of the game. So Acme will start to build up a pile. So basically I would put an 8, so I'd probably put the 8 somewhere like here, maybe, so I can go 2. Yeah, that's not great because I can't do 2, 4, 6, 8 now, but that's fine for now. And I've got the construction effect, so I will build this one. Circle the debt, and then these cards go into the discard. And basically we keep doing that until either we draw Acme's project card or the first project gets completed. Now that can be by myself or by Acme, and whenever either of us do that, this discard pile gets shuffled into this pile here. So that's it. So I'm going to keep playing off camera until one of those two things happens. Keep going with the standard turn structure of draw 3 cards, keep one number for the number, keep a card for the effect, and give the other one to Acme. Okay, so we've been continuing on with that turn structure. As you can see, I've filled in a few numbers, constructed a few casinos over here. I haven't managed to build any hotels yet or achieve any of the objectives. I've done a couple of upgrades, I've done quite a few shows, and we'll now do our next 3 cards. And as you can see, one of the project cards comes out. So the first thing we do is put this to one side to be resolved at the end of the turn and draw back up to 3. So then we take our turn as normal. Wow, 3 8s. So 1 for the number and 1 for the effect. So I'm definitely taking an 8. And I will probably take inauguration as well because I'm not doing very well on that. And this one goes to Acme. So I'm going to put my 8 here. My inauguration track, 1 over here. And that would be my part of the turnover. So now we resolve Acme's project card. So let's have a look. We've got the first project card that's come out, so it's this one, and they do validate it because it's got the tick. So that means that Acme scores 9 points for this because it's the pink one. So 9 points go there for them. And this now flips, and I can only get 4 points for this if and when I manage to achieve it. Now, if I would have achieved it this turn and Acme achieved it this turn, we'd both have got 9 points. If I'd have achieved it a couple of turns ago, Acme would have just got 4 points. So it just works the same as a regular opponent in that respect. So we can set this aside, and then we look to see what hotels they build. So they build hotels 6 to 7 unless I already have, which I haven't, which is a shame because I'm not far off. So they go an A there and an A there, which means I can only do partial hotels now there. So that's all it does when it draws a project card. One thing to note is that it doesn't care about the project itself. So for example, this is about building 1st and 11th hotels. It doesn't build 1st and 11th hotels. It only builds the hotels it's listed there, the same as it wouldn't construct anything because it doesn't have a sheet to construct on. So it really doesn't care about that. All it cares about is the number and the type. So we'd set that aside. Now, because that is the first project that's been completed by myself or Acme, we must shuffle this discard pile into the main deck. So we give this a good shuffle, and what that does is the 2 other project cards shuffled around, so they could be sort of further down because obviously there's now more cards in the deck, or they could be right at the top. So it just sort of resets the timing of the game a little. So give that a good shuffle, and then it will be a case of continuing with the standard draw 3, keep 1 for the number, 1 for the effect, give 1 to Acme, turn structure until we get to the next project card. Okay, so as you can see, the Acme yellow project card is just about to come out. I've actually completed the yellow project last turn. As you can see, I've built all these, or constructed all these under construction casinos. So we draw our 3. This one gets put to one side. 1, 2, 3. Put this to the side to resolve after. Resolve our turn as normal. I desperately need to do something with my limo. And we'll take this 3. So we give Acme that card. So I'll just put in my 3 there, and I need to get this limo on its way back because I don't want it to go very far. So end of the turn, we resolve Acme's yellow project card. Now it's the second card, which means they don't resolve it, so they're going to get 0 points for that. However, they do build hotels 3, 4 and 5 if I haven't already built them, which I still haven't built any hotels, so that's not very good. So Acme gets those 3 hotels now as well. So again, I can only get the partial one. Okay, now I should have explained that endgame is triggered by myself in any of the 3 normal ways, which is completing all the built casinos, or validating all 3 projects, or completing the inauguration track, getting to the end. However, Acme can also trigger the end game, but not in this case, because they'd have to, the only way they can do it is by completing all 3 projects, and we can see they don't complete 3 projects, so they're never going to trigger end game. But some of these cards have 3 ticks there, so they could technically trigger the end game before you do. So 1, 2, here's the project card, oh dear, 3. So again, we'll resolve that at the end of the game. Take my turn as normal, so I'm going to take this 14, improvement, and I'm going to go 14, and I'm going to improve my par 3s. Do I want to risk it for par 3s? Let's improve my fountains because I've got a couple of those guaranteed. So we now validate their 3rd and final project. So let's have a look. So they do validate it. It's the purple one. So they beat me to that, and they get 8 points. That flips over, and now when I finally, if I manage to get it, my 6 numbered sequence there, it would actually trigger end game, because that's when I've completed all 3 projects. So I need to be careful I don't do that before I'm ready. But I will only be able to get 4 points for that now. So I think I'm not doing very well against Acme today. Now we have a look at their hotels, which is 8, 9 and 10. I'd already built this last turn, didn't realise I'd done it, so that should have been circled. So they don't build 8 because I've already built it. They do build 9, and they do build 10. So that's Acme's projects cards all done. So keep going until I trigger end game now, doing the same, still giving them 1 card and keeping 2 for myself, and then it's time for end game scoring. Okay, so I've just triggered end game because I have I've passed the last card to Acme, and I've realised then that I have completed 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, my 6 even number sequence, which is my 3rd project. I only get the 4 points for it because Acme beat me to it, and that means that I've completed all 3 projects, therefore that's the end of the game. The way endgame now works is we need to work out our score and Acme's score. So I'm going to move the deck to one side, I'm going to move the project cards to one side, and I'm even going to move my player sheets to one side to start with, and I'm going to lay out Acme's cards in order like this. And the first thing I'm going to do for Acme is work out how many of these calculator improvement ones I've given them, and I've given them far too many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So just check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that means we look at a card and we look on this track here. If I'd given them 4 or less, then it wouldn't matter. But I've given them 8, which means that up until this point here, we use the higher of the 2 values, which is in the purple box. So 6 points for this section, 4, 4, 4, but then here we haven't reached 9 on this threshold, so we're going to use the smallest number in the yellow box, so 3 and 3. So basically those calculators tell you whereabouts you, how far along the track you go to use the bigger the numbers, and if you haven't reached the threshold, you use the smaller value. That card doesn't count for what, that's just the number, so we're not counting that one. Okay, so with that being said, I'm just going to make a little note in the corner that they got 8. The first thing we do then is work out the inauguration track scoring. Well, actually, the first thing we'll do is just tot up these projects. So I got 8 and 13, which is 21. And they got 9 and 8, which is 17. So inauguration track, I have improved it, so I'll get the greater value there. So I count how many unused X's I have on the track, which is 4. So this is to see who gets more for the first, second, third, although third's not relevant. So we then count up the number of inauguration cards that Acme has. So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've both got 4. Okay, so having looked up the rule, it seems that if it's a tie, which it is, we've both got 4 inauguration, then I get the most points because I have the most inauguration, but I also have the least. So it's both. So I incur the debt and get the highest score on that track. So for me, that's going to be 15 points. So Acme doesn't bother with this track here. Acme scores its inauguration slightly differently, so it refers to its card. Inauguration, we're looking at the 3-point mark here because we didn't get 10. We're only up to 8 on the improvement track, so 3 points per inauguration card. So as we know, it got 4, so it will get 12 points and no debt because Acme doesn't do debt. Lucky Acme. Okay, shows. For me, nice and simple. I just get the value in the box, so 28 for me, 0 on there. Acme will get 4 points because of the track there per show card that it's got. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 show cards, and it's getting 4 points, so it's getting 24. Hotels. Let's have a look here. So I will score hotels as normal. So I created 1, 2, 3, 4 full hotels and 1, 2, 3, 4 partial hotels. I didn't improve them at all, so I'm only going to get 4 times 1, which is 4, and 4 times 3, which is 12. Let's have a look how many Acme got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they get 7 hotels. And if we look at their card, hotels, or on that threshold, say 4 points per hotel, 7, that is 28 points for hotels. 4 times 7 is 28, isn't it? Yeah. So that's not great. Odd and even series, so we can work that out for myself quite easily by saying, right, what's the longest sequence in any of the rows? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 is 6 for the first row. 1, 3, 4, and is it 5, 7, 9, 11, 4 for the second row. 3, 5, 7, no, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, so 5 for the third row, and 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 3 for the bottom row. Acme scores the same for every row by working out how many of these cards it has and subtracting the number shown in the crane icon there, so -3. So cranes, I don't think I gave them that many because I used a lot of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I did give them quite a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. -3, because that's what it says on the card. So they get 6 for every street. That's their sequence. So they've got 6 odd or even in every street, which means I lose on every street except one where I tie. So we both get them added up just for the base value. So that's 10, 18 for me, and then 4 times 6 is 24 for them. I came first in this street, so I get 1, so I get 6 points. They came first in all 4 streets, and they get 6 points because, again, it's the improved value, the higher value. 6 points for every street that they won in. So they get 6 times 4, which is 24 again. So they're absolutely hammering me, to be fair. Okay, so golf courses next. So I have got 1, 2, 3 par 4s and 3 par 3s. And no par 5s. 2 points for that is 6. 3 points for that is 9. 0. Now, the way Acme does golf courses or golf holes is it cares about when there's the same card as the previous card. So let's count how many we've got that are the same to the neighbour, bearing in mind these are adjacent. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they've built 9 golf holes. And they get, we were at 8, weren't we? So they get 4 points for each of those. So they get 36 points for their golf course. Oh, this is an annihilation by Acme. These ones here, limo. So for me, first of all, I went past 1 bundle of bills, so I can circle that. And I went past 2 fountains. So 2 fountains. I got back, so there's no penalty. 2 times 5 is 10. And Acme literally just counts up the number of limo cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it's getting the smaller value because it didn't reach the threshold of 3. So it still gets a massive 27 points for its limo. Okay, so now we can see whether Acme chose to borrow from the bank. So it's based on this number. If it's, I think I could do with it being, I'm not sure if I've done enough to survive without. So it's a 1, so they don't borrow from the bank. So that means we get 2 bundles only. If it had been an 8 or more, I'd have got 4 bundles. So I've now got a total of 4 bundles, so I need to try and work out my debt. So I need to cross off 1 for each. So that is a debt there, so cross off that. I use 1 up here, so that's 1 there. Have we got any here? We've got 1 here, 2 here. And I think that's it. I think we built all the others. So we've got 2 there. So I think I've just made it because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, which is how many I've got, so I don't get the penalty. Not that it's going to make any difference. So now I can out my trusty calculator and work out the final scores. Okay, so I've totted it all up and I've got 129 points and Acme has got an amazing 192 points, easily beating me. Now, interestingly, when I played the level 3 opponent last time, I won by 2 points. It was really close. So I obviously need to up my game before I can attempt 4 and above again. I think one thing to be aware of is the cards you are giving Acme. I kind of just play it that I take what I want and give them whatever, but you need to be aware that if you give them the same card as you gave them previously, they're going to score a golf hole for it, which as you see can mount up quite significantly. 36 points for them, which is pretty massive. The same as, you know, giving them too many of these cards means that they get a higher number here, which again can have a knock-on effect. So it is something that you could do a little bit more strategically than I did, and beating them to the objectives is also kind of a good thing to do, which again I didn't do. But hopefully that gives you the general idea of how to play the solo mode, and if you've got any questions, just ask in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching.